Good evening, councillors, ladies, gentlemen and others. I am Councillor Emmett McKenna, Chair of the Planning Applications Committee. I would like to welcome you to the Planning Applications Committee, which is being held online as permitted by the Coronavirus Act 2020. The public and the press can observe the meeting by following the link from our website. Agenda papers, including the update pack, have been published on the Council's website. To help those observing the meeting, we will be presenting some information on slides as we go through the agenda. Before we start, councillors attending will be asked to introduce themselves. This is for the benefit of the public and also to ensure that all are in attendance as expected and that they can both hear and speak to the meeting. Members have been asked to make me aware if they wish to speak on an item in advance, and you can also notify me when you wish to speak in the chat section of the screen and then wait to be called. When not speaking, please will councillors put their microphones on mute. When called to speak, please unmute your microphone and pause briefly to allow for the slight time delay. It is possible that loss of connection may happen, but as long as we have 5 members still in attendance to the meeting, we will be quorate. I will now do a roll call of councillors. As I say your name, could you introduce yourselves to the meeting? I am Councillor Emmett McKenna, Chair of the Planning Applications Committee, and I represent Whitley Ward. I will call on the other members of the committee alphabetically. Councillors, please will you state your name and the ward you represent. Councillor Carnell. Councillor Carnell, are you in attendance tonight? You may be on mute.
My apologies, Chairman. Thank you. Yes, Chairman Councillor Paul Carnell, Thames Ward Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Carnell. Councillor Devine.
Ricky Devine, Councillor for Tarnhurst Ward.
Thank you, Councillor Devine. Councillor Ennis.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. John Ennis, Councillor for Southcote Ward and Lead Councillor for Housing.
Thank you, Councillor Ennis. Councillor Lovelock.
Good evening, Chair. Joe Lovelock, Councillor for Norcott Ward.
Thank you. Councillor McEwen.
Good evening, Chair. I'm Ruth McEwen. I'm Councillor for Church Ward and also Chair of ACE Committee.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen. Councillor Page.
Good evening, Councillor Tony Page, Abbey Ward Councillor, Deputy Leader of the Council and Lead Member for Planning, Transport and the Environment.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Councillor Robinson.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Councillor Simon Robinson, representing Peppard Ward.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Rowland.
Good evening, Chair. Karen Rowland, Abbey Ward and Lead Member for Culture, Heritage and Recreation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Dayapal Singh has sent his apologies and will not be joining us tonight, which we will get to at the appropriate point of our meeting. Councillor Chocolat.
Good evening, Chair. Councillor Chocolat here. Vice Chair of the Planning Application Committee and Councillor for Caversham.
Thank you, Councillor Chocolat. Councillor Stanford Beale.
Good evening, Chair. Councillor Jane Stanford Beale for Peppard Ward.
Councillor Josh Williams.
Good evening, Chair. Yeah, Josh Williams, Park Ward.
And Councillor Rose Williams has also sent her apologies this evening. Thank you, councillors. I would also like to introduce you to the officers who are in attendance tonight. Julie Williams is our acting planning manager. She is our senior planning advisor and is responsible for the work of the planning team. She will also advise me tonight on any matters relating to planning policy, guidance and practice. Case officers David Brett and Ethne Humphreys are presenting the application reports this evening. Wendy Baddison is a planning solicitor in the council's legal department. She is here to advise the committee on planning and local government law. This is to ensure that when the committee makes a decision, it is both within its powers and legally sound. Darren Cook is the Transport Development Control Manager and provides advice on all transport aspects of planning proposals. He is also the Council's Sustainable Drainage Advisor. Simon Hill and Nikki Simpson are committee services officers taking minutes of the meeting and producing this live broadcast. With the introductions out of the way, let us now turn to the agenda. For voting on the items of this meeting in part 1 of the agenda, I will ask, are we content to proceed, and pause for 5 seconds. I will take silence to mean that all members are agreed. We turn now to the minutes on page 3 of your agenda packs. Councillors, can I accept that this is a true and accurate record of our meeting held of the 13th of January 2021?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Silence as always is agreement, but thank you. Declarations of interest. I have not been made aware of any in advance. Councillors, do they have any declarations of interest to make at this meeting? I will take silence as none are to be made. We have questions. On this occasion, there are no questions from members of the public or councillors on this committee. So we move directly to planning appeals on page 15, and I will ask Julie Williams to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. The report records that we have had 2 appeals lodged, and I draw your attention to the first one for 71 to 73 Caversham Road, or Drews as we know it, which is being considered using a virtual hearing process. The hearing date has been confirmed as 24th of March, and interested parties have been notified of this date and the date for any submissions to be made to the inspectorate. There's also notification of 2 appeal decisions, and also in the main report you have 2 officer summary reports on those decisions. In addition, in your update pack there is notice of an appeal decision for August Close. That appeal was also dismissed, and there's also a report in there for the appeal decision on 40 Silver Street, which was also dismissed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Page, you have previously indicated you wish to speak. Please do so.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, briefly on page 17, references made, and Julie just made reference to the Silver Street appeal. There's a summary in our update pack on page 7, but I just wanted to highlight the importance of this decision. As is mentioned in the officer notes, this is now a 2nd appeal decision in respect of our new policy on student accommodation. Our previous local plan had no reference to the issue of student accommodation, as it wasn't a particular issue at the time of its compilation. But come November 2019, when the current local plan was signed off after an inspector's inquiry and representations, we included a new policy H12, which required student accommodation to be planned on or near the university itself or relevant educational sites. And that's now been tested twice on appeal, and this most recent appeal decision was very welcome. I quote from the inspector's report, paragraph 14, when he said not only was it justified, the policy, and up to date, and I give it significant weight. And he referred to the fact that we seek to balance, obviously, competing demands for housing, but in part by directing that new student accommodation to sites on or adjacent to existing education campuses, leaving other suitable sites within the built-up area to meet general housing needs. Now, with the second appeal under our belts, I hope that developers will pay perhaps more heed to this policy and not come forward with applications of this sort. Additionally, the inspectors have tested the very specious claims made by applicants that somehow providing these very upmarket accommodation would result in students leaving the more traditional houses in the terrace streets in Redlands and Park Ward, and to a lesser extent in Abbey and Catesgrove. And the inspectors have rightly given short shrift to these completely unsubstantiated claims. So, Chair, a very welcome decision, and hopefully those planning consultants and their advisors and applicants will pay more heed to this policy than has obviously been the case to date. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Page, and I'm happy to wholeheartedly echo your comments. Councillor Rowland, please address the committee.
Yes, hi, Chair, and thank you for that. Just wanted to actually agree with Councillor Page's comments. I was very, very glad of those appeals. And just to draw quickly attention to the appeal regarding 1A Mulberry House on Eldon Road that was also dismissed. Very glad for that, because it's in a conservation area setting, and the ruling was very clear cut, but it seemed like a plan that was a bit innovative, and we went after back in 2019, I believe, decided to become a little more overgrown and was slapped back. And you know, we actually kind of stuck ourselves out in a limb, I remember in 2019, and went for something perhaps a little more innovative, but I remember at the point feeling it was really just right. And the inspector in his decision did note that he concluded that the 2019 permission constituted a more desirable fallback position than the appeal that was proposed. So I'm very glad for this decision and wanted to thank officers on that, and thank the inspector. So
thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. I have no further indications to speak, so I'll also welcome 173 to 177 Kings Road, and particularly as it's yet another decision which defends the integrity of our conservation areas within Reading. And I'd like to congratulate officers on the successful outing at all the appeals.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 5, which is applications for prior approval. And again, I will call upon Julie Williams to introduce the report.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've got nothing to add to the contents of the report, and the decisions are set out in the table attached to the report. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no indications to speak, so I will ask that we have noted the report. Councillors, are you agreed? Thank you. We will now move to the second section of the meeting to consider the officer reports presented for planning applications. To ensure that it's been clear what has been decided and by whom, members will be asked to vote individually on the planning applications, stating if they are for, against, or wish to abstain. We have no items of public speaking this evening, so we will turn to item 6, which is application 201686/full, site adjacent to the Globe 12 Portman Road. And I will call upon David Brett, our planning officer, to introduce the application on page 29 of our agenda packs.
Thank you, Chair. This application relates to 12 Portman Road, which is currently occupied by Bubbles at the Globe Day Nursery and the Deliverance Centre. A site location plan and photographs of the building are shown on slide 1. The application seeks full planning permission for 6 replacement antennas, 8 cabinets and associated works at a shared site between EE and H3G UK. The replacement equipment would introduce 5G technology and improve network capacity to the surrounding area. While the proposed antennas are larger than the existing antennas, 4 of the 6 existing antennas will be relocated to the rear of the rooftop. This will reduce the visual impact of the proposed antennas from the main highway along Portman Road. Officers considered that the overall visual impact of the proposed development will result in very minor harm to the setting of the predominantly commercial surrounding area. The NPPF requires such harm to be weighed against the public benefits of the proposals. In this respect, the fact that the development will provide improved network coverage for nearby residents and emergency services networks by way of upgrade of an existing telecommunications base station that is shared between operators and therefore reduce the potential for new telecoms base stations and masts to be established elsewhere in this locality. The officer recommendation is to grant full planning permission subject to the recommended conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillors, do anyone wish to speak upon this item? I have no indications that anyone wishes to speak, so I will congratulate the officer on a well-written report, which was easy to follow, and will suggest that we move to the vote on to accept the recommendation as printed. Councillor Sakala, could you please second my motion?
Councillor McKeown, I second your motion.
Thank you. I will now call upon councillors in alphabetical order. Can you indicate if you wish to vote for the recommendation, against the recommendation, or to abstain? Councillor Carnell.
For the recommendation. Thank you,
Councillor
Chairman.
Devine.
For.
Councillor Ennis.
For.
Councillor Lovelock.
For.
Councillor McEwen.
For.
Councillor Page.
For.
Councillor Robinson.
For the recommendation.
Councillor Rowland.
For the recommendation, and a welcome to David Brett on his first planning application to the committee.
Councillor Sakala.
For the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Stanford Beale.
For the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Josh Williams.
For.
And then I will also vote for the recommendation, and that's unanimous decision to grant the application, grant permission for the application. Next, we move to agenda item 7, which is 2 combined applications, 201619 full and 201620, which is the listed building consent, which is on Reading International Business Park along the A33. I will call on Ethne Humphreys to introduce the application on page 43 of our agendas. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. These applications for planning permission and listed building consent relate to the Reading International Business Park and listed Little Lee Cottage on the A33 north of Junction 11. A site location plan and aerial view of the existing site are shown on slide 1. The proposals are for a new entrance to the main building, a pagoda-style feature to the rear terrace, amendments to the basement level to include provision of a larger gym and improved associated facilities, reconfiguration of the car park spaces with no change in numbers, internal works to the listed farmhouse, external works to the dot, and hard and soft landscaping proposals. In overall terms, the proposals seek to improve the quality of the office accommodation and ancillary uses at the site and to keep the existing employment site in a viable and sustainable use. Slide 2 shows some existing photos of the site, and there is a brief update report with the applications, which makes some clarifications and includes further comments received from consultees. The proposed site plan and visuals of the buildings are shown on slide 3. The proposals would meet national and local economic objectives by upgrading and investing in an existing employment site and providing jobs in South Reading. Proposals are recommended for approval as set out in the main recommendation, with the additional conditions as set out in the update report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I have one indication to speak, which is from Councillor Rowland. Please, will you address the committee?
Thank you, Chair. I actually would like to warmly welcome this application. I think it's a good and healthy update to the site, and felt I would be remiss if I didn't draw everyone's attention to the Little League farmhouse, the Little League cottage that's right there, which is an historic 17th century farmhouse that people have noticed probably for many, many years. And I wanted to applaud and actually thank the developer for a very interesting read with a very good heritage statement on that. And I would anyone in the public that's interested in the Little League farmhouse, it's a great read. And I think that hopefully breathing some new life into that and to keeping it on the site and embracing it with a very nice heritage statement was really very much appreciated. I think the improvements overall to the park are very welcome, and I'm happy to approve this.
Thank you. Would any other councillor wish to speak on this item? Then I will, as ward councillor, also echo the comments of Councillor Rowland and say that I'm very happy to see this application come forward on what is a redevelopment of an existing and very prominent building situated within our area, which will provide sustained employment opportunities for a large number of people, while at the same time improving the energy efficiency considerably of the building, the landscaping, and providing for the amenity of the workforce that will have to use the building. I'm very, very happy to see it come forward, and I suggest we move to the vote with the recommendations as printed in both the main agenda report and the update pack. Councillor Chocolat, will you second my motion?
Yes, Chair, I second the motion.
Thank you. We will now move to the vote on the recommendations as printed, and I will call upon all councillors in alphabetical order to indicate if they wish to vote for, against, or abstain, and we will take a single vote on both applications as they are intimately linked. Councillor Carnell, do you wish to vote for, against, or abstain to both linked applications?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm voting for both applications.
Thank you. Councillor Devine?
For.
Councillor Ennis?
For both applications.
Councillor Lovelock?
For.
Councillor McEwen?
For.
Councillor Page?
For.
Councillor Robinson?
For both applications.
Councillor Rowland?
For both applications.
Councillor Chocolat?
For both applications, Chair.
Councillor Stanford Beale?
For both applications.
Councillor Josh Williams?
For.
And then myself will wholeheartedly vote for on both the applications, which we have agreed to grant permission to, pertaining to the conditions within the reports. I'd like to thank councillors and officers for their time on what has to be one of our quickest meetings after one of our longest meetings in January. So we'll be kind to ourselves, and I will release you to enjoy your evenings. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chair. Good night.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, everyone.